When Emma first said the words, I laughed. Not because they were funny, but because I couldn't believe she had said them so casually, so coldly. No intimacy, she told me one evening as she slipped under the covers, pulling the blanket up to her shoulders like a shield. I'm just not interested anymore. At first, I thought it was stress. Work had been demanding for her, and I knew that sometimes couples go through dry spells. I brushed it off, convinced myself it was temporary. After all, we had been married for 6 years. We had shared so many moments, silly adventures, long nights talking, the kind of bond you think nothing can crack. So I chose patience. I told myself love was about understanding, about waiting. But waiting turned into months. I tried everything. Romantic dinners, surprise flowers, even weekend getaways that I could barely afford. She smiled at the gestures, thanked me politely, but when the nights came, her back turned to me before I could even reach for her hand. And each time, the words echoed in my head. No intimacy. What hurt most wasn't the rejection. It was the way she made me feel foolish for wanting her. Like I was some silly boy chasing affection that she had outgrown. She would roll her eyes when I brought it up, dismiss my feelings as though they were inconveniences. You're overreacting, she'd say. Why is this so important to you? As if closeness, connection, love were trivial demands. Slowly, I stopped trying. Not out of acceptance, but out of exhaustion. I became a ghost in my own marriage, moving quietly around the house, pretending I didn't notice her late-night texting, her sudden enthusiasm for work drinks she never used to attend. I wasn't stupid. I knew something was wrong. But I still clung to the idea that maybe, just maybe, she'd wake up one day and realize what we were losing. The breaking point came on a Saturday afternoon. We were sitting in the living room, sunlight spilling across the floor. I asked her, gently this time, if she was happy. She sighed, put her phone down, and looked me straight in the eyes. I told you already, she said flatly. I don't want intimacy. If that's what you're waiting for, stop. This is just how things are now. Her tone was final, like a verdict. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. For months, I had been holding on to scraps, convincing myself that love could survive on patience alone. But patience had turned into humiliation. I realized then that the only silly thing left was me, waiting for a marriage that had already ended in her heart. So I smiled, not the kind of smile that hides pain, but the kind that comes when you finally stop pretending. All right, Emma, I said quietly. If that's how it is, then our marriage ends here. The silence that followed my words was heavier than any argument we'd ever had. Emma stared at me as if I had just spoken a foreign language, her lips parting in disbelief. For the first time in years, she looked unsettled, as though the certainty she carried about our dynamic had been shaken. You're joking, she said finally, almost laughing. You're not serious. But I was. And for once, I didn't flinch. I had spent too long living in a shadow, too long begging for the scraps of her attention. Something about saying it out loud, our marriage ends here, set me free. Her face hardened quickly, shifting from shock to anger. You're being dramatic. You'd throw away everything we've built because I don't want to play along with your needs. The venom in her tone was meant to sting, but instead it revealed the truth. She didn't see our intimacy as love, as connection, just as some childish craving she no longer respected. And in that moment, I saw everything clearly. The late nights out, the secretive smiles at her phone, the way she always seemed more alive with her friends than with me. I had ignored the signs because I wanted to believe in us. But love doesn't look like disdain. Marriage doesn't survive on indifference. I stood up, and the weight that had been on my chest for months began to lift. I'm not walking away because you don't want intimacy, I told her calmly. I'm walking away because you stopped caring that I do. Because you've made me feel like a fool for needing my wife. Her expression flickered, just for a second. Maybe guilt, maybe realization. But she quickly covered it with mockery. Fine. Go ahead. See how far you get without me. You'll come crawling back. But the truth was, I had already lived without her for months. I had slept beside a stranger every night, eaten dinners across from someone who treated me like a burden. Walking away wasn't losing her. It was finally admitting she was already gone. I packed slowly over the next few days, moving my things into boxes. She didn't stop me. Instead, she carried on as if nothing had changed, as if I were just throwing a tantrum that would blow over. Her arrogance was almost laughable, her certainty that I'd never really leave. But each item I packed wasn't just clothes or books. It was pieces of myself I was reclaiming. Every folded shirt, every pair of shoes, felt like a step back toward the man I had been before I let her diminish me. On my last night in that house, I sat in the empty living room. The silence felt different this time. Not suffocating, not cold, but peaceful. I realized then that love shouldn't make you beg. Marriage shouldn't make you feel invisible. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that staying is more destructive than leaving. When I finally walked out the door, Emma didn't follow. She didn't call after me. She just lay on the couch, scrolling her phone, as if nothing mattered. But I knew one day she would feel the weight of that silence. The first few weeks after leaving were strange, like stepping out of a fog into sharp daylight. At first, there was guilt. Not because I believed I had done something wrong, but because I had been conditioned to think walking away from suffering was selfish. Every time I sat alone in my new apartment, part of me expected Emma's voice, sharp and accusing, telling me I had failed her. But slowly, the quiet became comforting. My mornings were no longer filled with cold stares across the breakfast table. My evenings no longer revolved around waiting for a crumb of affection that never came. I began to rediscover the small joys I had neglected. Cooking meals I liked, reading late into the night, calling friends I had drifted from because she never approved of them. It was freedom, raw and unfamiliar, but freedom nonetheless. Emma didn't reach out at first. She was too proud, too sure that my absence was temporary. But pride has a way of rotting into loneliness. 2 months after I left, I received her first message. "Are you done being dramatic yet? Come home. We can start over." I stared at the screen for a long time. Once upon a time, those words would have broken me, sent me running back with apologies. But now, I only felt tired. The woman on the other side of that message wasn't my wife anymore, not really. She was someone who had taken me for granted, who thought love was permanent no matter how cruelly it was treated. I didn't respond. A week later came another message. "You'll regret this. No one will ever love you the way I did." And she was right, thank God. Because I didn't want to be loved the way she loved me. Conditionally, coldly, like a chore she had outgrown. The months stretched on, and I rebuilt myself piece by piece. I wasn't in a rush to find someone new. I wasn't searching for validation. What I wanted most was peace, and for the first time in years I had it. But life has a way of surprising you. 6 months after I walked away, I met Claire. She was nothing like Emma, gentle where Emma was sharp, attentive where Emma was dismissive. More importantly, she listened. She didn't make me feel like my needs were burdens. With her, I remembered what it felt like to laugh without restraint, to share without fear of being mocked. I don't know if Claire is my forever. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. But what I do know is this. Leaving Emma was the moment I chose myself. It was the moment I stopped mistaking endurance for loyalty, or neglect for normalcy. And as for Emma, word reached me through mutual friends. She still tells people I left because I was too needy, still hides her regret behind arrogance. But late at night, when she lies down in the silence she once weaponized, I wonder if she finally realizes what she lost. Because here's the truth. A marriage doesn't end when someone says no intimacy. It ends the moment one partner stops caring about the other's heart. And the day I walked away, I stopped being invisible and started being free.